Good morning, this is Mark White. Good morning, Daniel. You said you wanted to see more of these videos, so here you go. This particular video is for the directors only, and it is a video to introduce everyone to the new policy for headquarters budgeting and tracking of actual expenses. I want to take a little bit of time. I'm going to send this video clip and the policy to you in an email, and what I'd like for you to do is read the policy and provide feedback. You can either type it up, track changes in the policy and send it back, or just give me a call and say, this is good, this is not, why are we doing this? So that's the assignment. Read it and get some feedback. We're going to go live with this policy on January 1, so it's what we're going to use for the 2011 fiscal year for tracking our headquarters budget and actual expenses. So the budget, I'm going to give you a little bit of an overview here so that you get a sense on why we created this policy and what we're trying to accomplish with it. We already have the delegation of authority policy. Everyone's familiar with that, and it works quite well. The problem that we have is in identifying who has approval authority over what expenses and where do we put expenses in the budgets. So the rent is, as one example, was an expense that we had a little bit of difficulty or confusion over which budget does the rent go into. So we started coming up with a framework and a methodology on how we would budget for an expense, and when we do have the expense within one department's budget, we also want to make sure that the expenses that for that rent as the example, when we do charge those and pay for those expenses and expense them, then they go to the same, they align to the same department that budgeted for the expense. So that's the concept of it. The way that we're using this and how it interacts with the delegation of authority policy is that if a department head has the commitment authority over an expense, then the department head is going to budget for the expense for the annual budget, and then when the invoices come in and we charge that expense to a department, the expenses are going to go to the same department. So the commitment authority is the controlling factor in all of this. And who has it and who, if they have it, then it goes into the budget for that department. Rent, again, is the example. The administrative department, Amy, has the authority to negotiate, and the admin department in general has the authority to negotiate and select vendors, select sites, and then they sign the lease, so they have the full commitment authority over that expense. Vince in the DC office, Vince, although most of his department is using the rent and using the office space, Vince doesn't negotiate any of the lease agreements, and he's not reviewing and approving the invoices as they come in. Therefore, it doesn't make sense to move those expenses and have those on Vince's budget because he doesn't approve any of the costs. So he would, when we get a BVA, Vince would be responsible for reviewing the rent BVA if he budgeted for it and it was actually on his department's, the actual expenses were on his department's BVA. He would look at that line, say, okay, here's the rent, here's the actual expense, I can see that there's a variance, but Vince didn't do any approval on the invoices, nor did he negotiate, so he has no scope of reference to commit to the variance on that BVA. So to get around that, what we decided to do was bring all of the rent related activity and put all of it, no matter where it is. Amy negotiates it, Colleen negotiates it, they approve it, so all of the rent is going to be budgeted in admin, and all of the expenses are going to line up and be recorded to the admin department. Now, that's just one example. The policy actually goes through quite a few other types of expenses. It's quite comprehensive in terms of listing out the different types of expenses and which department has controlling authority over those based on delegation of authority. So have a read, take a look at it, see if you agree, and what we're going to do is come January 1, this is how we're going to be recording the budget and the expenses. Just for your information, we use these rules or these concepts in developing the 2011 budget. The rent example that I gave you has already been resolved in the budget for 2011, and it's all in the admin department. So all we're ready to do now is to make sure that everybody understands what's going on with segregating the cost between the departments and the rules that we're going to follow for the year when we're approving expenses. So with that, I'll let you get back to your day. Thank you very much for your time. And Daniel, good on you, mate. This is a really good idea. I hope this works out for everybody. Take it easy. Bye-bye.